Imagine waking up completely convinced that the person sleeping next to you is a perfectly disguised impostor. Or worse, waking up and realizing that you yourself are already dead. For centuries, when patients made bizarre claims, society dismissed them as demonic possession or symbolic madness. But modern medical observation provides a different answer. The explanation comes from a discipline called cognitive neuropsychiatry. Rather than treating the brain as a vessel for abstract psychological conflicts, this field models it as a mechanical information processing architecture. This diagram shows a perceptual mismatch. Your brain constructs reality by constantly syncing external physical data with internal schemas. When synchronization breaks down, the brain desperately invents logical yet terrifying explanations to fill the gap. The 5 exceptionally rare conditions we are about to explore are not random chaos. They show us exactly how the brain logically reacts when its cognitive map is broken. Cotard syndrome, historically known as the walking corpse syndrome, follows a highly specific progressive track. It begins with a germination stage of vague anxiety, moves into a blooming stage where hypochondriasis worsens, and finally settles into a chronic stage. In that chronic phase, patients develop profound nihilistic delusions. They will firmly declare that their internal organs have vanished, that their blood has completely drained away, or even that the external world itself has ceased to exist. In 1880, French neurologist Jules Cotard documented one of the earliest known cases. The patient, known as Mademoiselle X, insisted she had no brain, nerves, or chest, claiming she was made of mere skin and bone. Driven entirely by the internal rules of her delusion, she refused to eat. A corpse, after all, requires no sustenance. She ultimately starved to death, proving the brain will follow a perceptual glitch to its absolute fatal conclusion. Capgras Delusion creates a different kind of mismatch. The patient looks at a spouse or parent and perfectly recognizes their physical features, but experiences a chilling absence of emotional warmth. The visual recognition is fully intact, but the emotional intimacy is entirely severed. The medical record for this condition starts in 1923 with Madame M, a 53-year-old Frenchwoman. She became convinced her husband, children, and neighbors had been replaced by precise replicas. Her delusion rapidly expanded until she claimed her husband had been swapped out by 80 different identical doubles. Because the patient perceives a severe lack of emotion from a familiar face, they resolve the incongruity by concluding the person is a threat. Statistically, about 60% of patients with misidentification syndromes physically attack the perceived imposter out of fear. Capgras reveals that emotional data is a load-bearing pillar of visual reality. Remove the feeling of love, and a spouse logically becomes a malevolent spy. Freckly delusion acts as the exact neurological inverse. A patient looks at multiple complete strangers, sees zero physical resemblance to anyone they know, yet feels absolute conviction that they share the psychological identity of a single, familiar person. The first reported case in 1927 documented a woman living in London who believed 2 specific theater actors were relentlessly pursuing her, wearing the physical faces of everyday people she passed on the street. An overactive pattern recognition glitch breeds intense paranoia. It forces the brain to take crowds of unconnected, innocent people and compress them into a single, localized threat. Body integrity identity disorder, or xenomelia, moves the mismatch entirely internal. Patients experience an obsessive desire to amputate a perfectly healthy limb because it feels alien, intrusive, and distinctly not me. These patients do not suffer from psychosis. Their reality testing is fully intact. They know the leg physically belongs to them, but they experience a heavy dysphoria, articulating a paradoxical feeling of being over-complete in their natural state. Many cope through pretending behaviors, binding their legs or using crutches. In the late 1990s, Scottish surgeon Dr. Robert Smith controversially performed elective amputations on the healthy legs of 2 such men who had been deemed entirely refractory to psychotherapy. BIID demonstrates that a person's internal body map can hold more authority over their sense of identity than their physical anatomy. Clinical lycanthropy is the fixed belief of transforming into an animal, usually a wolf. This is driven by deep somatic errors called synesthesic hallucinations. visceral, physical sensations originating from within the body. Patients report intensely vivid sensory experiences. They feel their jaw hardening, their teeth elongating into fangs, and the sensation of thick fur sprouting across their skin, often causing them to prowl or howl. This condition has been documented since antiquity. Historical texts record that King Nebuchadnezzar of the Neo-Babylonian Empire was driven into the wild, believing he was a bovine, and ate grass like an ox for 7 years. Before modern psychiatry, these symptoms were often attributed to witchcraft. During the French Inquisition, tens of thousands of individuals were executed based on culturally reinforced epidemics of lycanthropy. Clinical lycanthropy illustrates how internal somatic errors can be powerful enough to override a patient's sense of being human, replacing it with a perceived animal identity. This models how the brain builds perception. Physical reality, emotional recognition, and self-awareness are not passive observations. They are fragile mental constructions. When even a single hidden wire crosses, the entire system must warp to accommodate the error. The patients experiencing these syndromes are not mad in the historical sense. They are perfectly rational minds trapped inside profoundly broken perceptual maps. We'll be doing deep